one person in this world that keeps me going. A lot of times when you get asked to speak, you want to write a speech, and a lot of times I never go with it, so I stopped writing speeches to some point. The most that I can do is when I come, is I pray to the Creator, pray to Mother Earth, because Mother Earth, we all come from. And I remember my grandmother's teachings when I was little. She always told me, always remember where you come from, that you come from the land, and you come from Mother Earth, and never ever let anyone believe that you were anything less. And that's what I always remembered in the 9 years that I had her in our lives, because she died when I was young. But she was a strong woman, and as I was reflecting today about what this walk is about, all I could do was think about my grandmother, my great-grandparents, the ones who struggled, because I come from a people that on these lands, the women were the holders of the land and of the water. And in our societies, we're the center of our families. And somewhere along the way, someone decided that wasn't good enough. And they tried to start to oppress our people, and tried to oppress our men, our women, our children, and even tried to make our men believe that we were less, to make us fit into a society that wasn't ours, into a system that wasn't ours. And today, we still struggle to try and overcome that. And I don't want to use the words fight, because I'm not here to fight. I'm here to show that we're all about kindness and love, because that's what, as women, that's our strength. We all have gifts. And so does she. But one of the things that I wanted to teach this little girl is not about fighting. I want her to honor who she is as a female. She knows she's pulling it away. But I want her to honor her strengths and her gifts. And her gifts are to love. Her gifts are to care. Her gifts are to be understanding and forgiving. And that's why I stand up and I speak. A lot of times when I go out there and I speak, I don't speak because I'm angry. Yes, I've been there. I grew up with addictions. I grew up with sexual abuse. I grew up with all those things that people talk about that women have been oppressed in. I was reflecting this morning. One of the things I remember was, if today could be a day of rest for us women, that would be so nice. But it's not. It's a day for women. There's a little bit of difference between us. The difference with us as women is we're always having to struggle to find our place, or to always having to speak up to say we belong here. I can't wait till a day when we can just rest. That would be so beautiful. You know, when I think about that day when I was standing listening to Stephen Harper on February 7th, I was standing in a room full of many men. And being a woman who's a leader in my nation, I'm a council member in Sad Lake. It's in Treaty 6 territory. It's about an hour and a half, 2 hours from here. And the struggle we have is that there's not that many women in leadership. And it's not because there's not that many women running. It's because An oppressive system has made a lot of our people believe, even our women, believe that we shouldn't be in leadership. And when I ran for council, I was challenging a system. And I knew there's always consequences to everything. And when you're not silent, you can ease, when you're silent, you can just kind of float through life, you think sometimes. But when you're not silent, you deal with a lot more in matters of people coming at you and more will think it's okay to say or attack or do whatever. They just think it's just fine and dandy and it's justified. The sad thing is we have our own women oppressing us. And that's even disheartening. Because that day I stood up. I didn't stand up because I wanted to make it on media or national news. I stood up because the one thing that's unique to me as a woman, and I've been told by my ancestors, is that we are the holders of the land, of the water, and the center of our families and our home. And when I stood with my hand on my heart and my hand up. Because I had to stand. I had no choice. I heard my ancestors screaming that everything that was being said that day was wrong. Because even the setup was a setup. It was to make us look like we all approved of this. They even used our customs, our respect custom, to silence us. Majority of the people in that room had no clue what this announcement was about. All we knew was there was an announcement that was going to affect our children, our lives, but we had no clue what it was about. And when we went in there, as I was sitting there trying to keep an open mind and hope, I realized as I was going through that this was another way of silencing us. And I could not sit and be silent. So I did a prayer before I stood. And I stood firmly on the ground, like I've been told, to be close to Mother Earth. And all I did was I said, I'm going to speak from my heart. And that's all I can do. And that's when I spoke. People say I was yelling, but I didn't have a microphone. So that was one of the reasons. I had media in the background, and I had to be loud enough for them to hear. Because it's these ones. Because at the end of the day, it's about them. It's all of them. People don't realize that what we're standing up for as an Indigenous people is to honor who we are. We have an education system. We have an Indigenous education system that honors who we are, honors the gifts of every single person. It honors the Creator. It has laws embedded in it. But there's a system that's being enforced on us that oppresses us, and it doesn't allow us to lifelong learning. There was a time our people, there's a reason why we didn't write things down. Not because we were illiterate, but because we remembered it here and we remembered it here. We lived it, we breathed it. We didn't need to memorize it. We knew it. It was every part of who we are. We owned it. And that's what we're standing up for. Our school systems are right now here. As we were walking down the street, that was our education. As I sit with my granddaughter, that's educating. As I hold her, that's educating. That's what we're all about. I'm a teacher by trade. And the memories my children in school remember is in the springtime when we were out there walking, and I was teaching them medicines. I was teaching them how to respect, how to ask for answers through our protocols. That's what they remember. One of my students last year told his auntie when they went to go see the medicine wheels in the prairies, if Miss Houle was here, she would be in her long skirt and she'd be telling us everything there is about the land and where we are. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm far from knowing everything. But all I know is what I have to listen to in my blood and my ancestors. Because when I walk and I stand here, I am speaking for 7 generations ahead of me. And I am honoring 7 generations behind me. So right now what I'm doing, I'm speaking so that that little girl there will reap the rewards of my good choices. And that's all I can ask of all of you. Honor who you are as women. I'm not saying you have to be more like a man to fit into that job or that place. I've worked in men's jobs. I was a woodworker. I know how to do all these men's jobs, a lot of them. Because I grew up within the farm and different stuff. I come from a generations of cowboys. I wanted to be a bull rider, not a barrel racer. So those are things that I come from, but it's about honoring who we are as women. We don't need to give up who we are. Just honor who you are, your gift. Because that's where we come from. And that's all I can ask of anyone, is to show your gifts. That's what's going to overcome. That's why we are so unpredictable as women. We all come from women. We are givers of life. We're not about taking life. We're about giving it.